The Advocate, numbers 587 through 593, October through December, 1991. Like hug, kiss, cuddle, hot sex, quiet times. Me, an entirely 237-year-old vampire who sleeps in a coffin every night and dreams of being woken up by a hot twink like you with exactly 3 pancakes, 2 vials of maple syrup, and a vial of homemade lubricant. Write Drac, P.O. Box 871, Trans-Ovania, California 93024. Sad daddy. Fuck Ronald Reagan, I'm dying. I'm 34 years old, HIV positive, not into scene, not a lot of hope. Fuck. No P.O. Box. Athletes, free massage. Have you been meaning to incorporate massage into your training but can't afford it? Like, seriously, are you selling your blood for drinking money? Are you selling your blood for drinking money so that you can go down to your local bar and hopefully have a chance in scoring with somebody, but you never score with somebody because you're just too shy and sad and unhappy? Oh my God. I'm sad. I'm unhappy. Oh. All right, hold on. Comedy. I've got this. My therapist says I've got this. Shit. So, I've been studying history a little bit. It's something to do to kill the time. I'm tired of reading about current events. They're so depressing. The slide into fascism just makes me want to, self-harm. And, I don't have as much time to self-harm as I used to. So, I need to do things a little differently these days. So, I learned something. Did you know that there are no white people in the Bible?
What?
That's the joke. On our entire civilization. Welcome to Medford Remote Online Communication. I'm your teacher today, Miss Bard. This is LGBTQ 101. I just want to teach you all about cultural competency so that you can have an easier time in our diversifying world. So I'm non-binary. I'm a little masculine, a little feminine, a little country, a little bit rock and roll. I have the best of multiple worlds. Some people are scared of me. Some people are less scared of me. Some people don't know whether to be scared of me or less scared of me. It makes it pretty easy to navigate my work. I rarely get fucked with, and when I do, it's in a highly entertaining fashion that, even I tend to laugh at. So anyway, we all talk about coming out of the closet, and I gotta let you know in the queer community, it doesn't quite work like that. You don't just realize, oh, I'm gay, and then I'm gonna come out of the closet. What happens is you either get, number 1, touched by an angel, number 2, diagnosed by a drag queen, or number 3, accidentally get a copy of Teen Vogue in the mail. And that's how you find out you're a member of the LGBTQ community. Flea markets aren't just for blind dates anymore. I learned this personally. Flea markets are also for getting RC Cola. Everywhere you go, it's Coke or Pepsi, but the flea market, it's always RC. And, everybody's got a friend who's really excited to go to the flea market because they have RC Cola. And, you go with that friend and you find out why they're so excited about RC Cola. And once they have a couple of glasses, they sit down and they tell you their story. I lived through the Coke versus Pepsi wars in 1985. And I tell you, when them bombers full of Pepsi started dropping pure cola refreshment on my village and blew up everything as far as the eye can see, I was so traumatized I could never drink Coke or Pepsi again. So that's why when I want refreshment, I have to come here to the flea market. By the way, thank you for going on this blind date with me. I was watching TV the other night, and I was absolutely blown away at some of the commercials that were coming on. I mean, I don't watch much TV, so I don't see a lot of commercials. And, I see this commercial come on for Toddler PM. When in doubt, knock 'em out with Toddler PM. Put your kid to sleep. All right, that's great. And buy our sister product, Toddler BM. They can poop on your time, not theirs, with Toddler BM. Then there was a commercial. It was either for the county lockup or for a very lazy bail bondsman, and I don't remember the verbiage, but the jingle was like, "Freedom only comes when you decide not to bail them out of jail." It's like, well, I guess if you have like your recidivist kid sleeping on your floor, I guess you are more free if you don't bail them out of jail. That makes sense. Then there was the ad for the foster parent agency talking about their easy return policy. That was bad. So I'm the only Temple the Bard. That is unless my quoting machine has gotten out of the shop. I know, I shouldn't use union labor. It figures I tell a union joke because anybody who's ever stared at my arms knows I pick on scabs. But one of the reasons I didn't complete my surgical transition from male to female is because I found I really like peeing standing up. Like, it's convenient, it's kind of hygienic, it's a lot easier when you're camping, I was really kind of into it, so I wanted to preserve that. And another reason I like peeing standing up is these days everywhere they're installing these like elongated front toilets, and like, I don't know about any of you who have a penis out there, but like when I pee into one of those things, like I'm guaranteed to come up with a yellow hand afterwards. It's like I took a seat on Splashback Mountain or something like that. Maybe some of you out there with penises, like you're built a little differently than I am, and you can like stretch it around to the back and like pee backwards so that you don't splash on yourself or something, but that puts you at a significant risk of giving yourself a self-administered bidet treatment. And I know how a lot of you heterosexual guys are really skittish about like anything touching your asshole whatsoever. So in the Pacific Northwest here, it's really important to be healthy, or at least to be perceived as being healthy. And so like I bought myself a refrigerator full of like really amazing food. I've got kale, I've got that Toby spread you all gush about, I got all the Pacific Northwest stuff. And my friend came over the other day and looked at my fridge and she's like, "Oh wow, you're eating so healthy." And I'm like, "Nah, those are just props." Like, I don't actually eat any of this shit. Come on. My real diet though is amazing. I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and however much I want. It's called wrecking toilets and dying young. The main thing getting in the way of like becoming like really hardcore into gay bottom butt sex is lube affordability. I assure you, it's not anything physical, it's not anything mental, it's lube affordability. Lube is fucking expensive. Like, if you're gonna play with Astroglide, you need to put like 3 figures down on lube before getting into it for the night, seriously. This is why like the hardcore queers, we get into the veterinary lube, the powdered stuff you can order on Amazon. And you just get a specially dedicated blender in your garage, or better yet, put the grout attachment on your drill, get a 5-gallon bucket, pour some of the stuff in, you stick your drill attachment in there, and it starts going. But the thing is, that's the wrong sound. It won't mix right if it makes that sound. So on top of that sound, you gotta go. You gotta make the sound manually, otherwise it won't mix the bubbles right. And, basically once you've mixed this stuff in, you can put in some essential oils. It's shelf stable for 6 months. And, it's like those who are into hardcore butt sex, like they make their own lube and they have fun with it. All the straights other think, well, why don't you just use Crisco? But that's a total stereotype. So I went camping late last summer and I went to this beautiful place. I think it was called Triangle Lake. And I walked around the back of the lake and holy shit, I saw this group of Sasquatches sunning. They were all just sitting there getting some sun, and they saw me, the human, pull up, and they're like, "Oh shit, it's a human." And I reached down in my pocket to try to get my phone to take pictures to get proof that Sasquatch exists, and holy shit, I have no phone. I forgot it back at the campsite. Once they realized I had no phone, they're like, "Shit, this human has no phone." Well, fuck, no phone, no proof. So they're like, "Hey, why don't you kick it with us?" Great, hang with some Sasquatches. So I was getting some sun, and we talked, and I found out there was a group of queer Sasquatches, which is really cool, and so I ended up spooning with this one. His name was Jean-Luc, and he's real cutie, and just after a while, it just kind of organically happened. I ended up giving him a hand job. And then all of a sudden, holy shit, I have this handful of Sasquatch cum. Like, if I take this back and get this analyzed in a lab, I can finally prove once and for all that Sasquatch exists, and I'll be a big hero and rich and famous and all that shit. So I'm like, yo, Jean-Luc, gotta bounce, see you later. And he's like, whatevs. And so I go back to camp and I like scrape it off on some Tupperware, and you know, I get it all ready to take to the lab, and I'm so proud of myself, and I take it to the lab, and a couple weeks later they call me and give me the results. I'm like, all right, what is it? What is it? I'm so excited. Like, have I proven Sasquatch exists? And the guy in the lab is like, well, you know, I'm really sorry, but yeah, that's unfortunately 100% pure organic Canadian maple syrup. God damn it, who'd have thunk that Sasquatches come 100% pure Canadian maple syrup? Anyway, to make a long story very short, I was at the Kiwanis Club picnic that weekend after finding out the bad news, and I'm sitting across the hall from this guy, across the table, and he says, hey, pass the Sasquatch cum, please. And I'm like, what? And I look at him and he looks at me, and we're going, oh my God, we both had the same experience together. The knowing look in the eyes, and all of a sudden we said in unison, Jean-Luc. And all of a fucking sudden, out of nowhere, here's Phoebe Snow singing, celebrate the moments of your life. All right, it was funny to me.
So this open mic is kind of fun. We've got like, you don't see on the camera here, but we've got a crowd of like 5 people out there, and like they're 5 fabulous people. I'm glad to be here. I went to an open mic in Portland a couple weeks ago, and it was a completely different situation. There was like 30 people in the crowd, and all 30 were comics, and all 30 were on the list. And all 30 were just ready to like throw down and compete with each other. You know, there wasn't any community. There were 30 comics who were ready to jump into a river of fecal matter and fight each other inside it until one of them could emerge unscathed on the other side and get the Netflix special that they are owed by God, the universe, and everybody. That's like the Portland comedy scene is like, I will fight you for my Netflix special. I am a professional. I deserve this. This is gonna validate my existence in the eyes of my creator, my mother, and my own self. So anyway, I'm not doing comedy in Portland anymore. I'm kind of over that.
So I'm relatively new to Oregon, and Oregon is weird and beautiful, and I love it. I just went to the new cocktail bar that opened up downtown. It's called Ampersand and Ampersand. These guys over here are looking at me like, and? Checked out this new place to buy some clothing. It was neat. It was over on 13th Avenue. It was called Eugene Jeans. Really creatively named, of course. And I went in to talk to the lady that runs the place, and I was like, hey, what's your name? And she's like, oh, my name's Barbara. And I'm like, hi, Barbara. You have missed one hell of an opportunity here. If I was you, even if my name was Barbara, I'd wear a name tag that said Gene. Eugene Jeans. Hey, I'm Gene from Eugene Jeans, you know?
That's her husband.
Yeah, well, see, that's what I'm getting at, because I wouldn't just be her alone running that place. I'd have my husband, too, and he would have a name tag on that also said Gene. Then it could be Gene and Jeans, Eugene Jeans. And, you know, like, it would just start to boom the business, and then they'd have to hire some more people, and I would have one of the stipulations in the contract be that everybody that gets hired at Gene and Jeans, Eugene Jeans, would have to wear a name tag that says Gene. So by the time this place is booming, you have this place that everybody's name tag is Gene, and can you imagine the shenanigans that would ensue from that point? I mean, it would just be crazy. You know, people would show up just to watch the shit show. They'd end up making a limited run reality series out of it and put it on one of those cable channels that boomers watch in their sleep. You know, speaking of stuff boomers watch in their sleep, have you checked out that new CBS show, Placebo Hope? It's about this cynical old lady's relationship with God. Yeah. You know, I like old CBS shows, that whole comfort for boomers vibe, you know, like one of my favorites was Murder, She Wrote. And one of the great things about Murder, She Wrote is you can either imagine that you're like Angela Lansbury up in Maine solving crimes that are too mundane for Stephen King to bother writing about. Or you could fantasize about being murdered. Happened to somebody every episode. It's good to be at an open mic. It's good to be at a nice, friendly open mic. I did an open mic in Portland a couple weeks back, and it wasn't so friendly at all. It was a lot of locals who were really competitive with each other and refused to laugh at each other's jokes. There were 25 comics on the list and 25 people in the crowd, and after the first comic told 5 minutes worth of mediocre dick jokes, there were then 24 comics left on the list and 24 comics in the crowd. You see where I'm going with this. Anyway, after I did what I thought was a pretty good set to absolutely no laughter whatsoever, I went outside and I talked to one of the comics. I was like, hey man, good set today. And he's like, this doesn't mean nothing, it's just a mic. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, I'm just tuning up for some real clutch gigs I've got coming up. I'm gonna be doing 20 minutes at the Velvet Butthole in government camp next week. And after that, I'm gonna be headlining at the Ding Dong Deli in McMickmick. Like, all right. Whatevs, you know, he's like, oh yeah, the Ding Dong Deli, it's like primo, it's bougie, it's farm to fork, it's farm to table, it's everywhere you want to be. I'm like, okay, and he's like, yeah, the executive chef, Bobby Trafe, only uses meat from circumcised animals. I'm like, what? He's like, oh yeah, like every animal, every bit of meat served at the Ding Dong Deli comes from a circumcised animal. I'm like, okay. And he's like, yeah, and they have the best shrimp Louis west of the Rockies. I'm like, what? He's like, oh yeah, the shrimp are circumcised too. And let me tell you what, it's really hard because not only are shrimp dicks really tiny and tucked in behind their rear legs, but they've got 2 of them. Like, damn, that's a lot of work for the sous chef. He's like, yeah, but it's like the only kosher shrimp Louis you're gonna find west of the Rockies. It's just absolutely amazing. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that, you know, just because you circumcise the shrimp doesn't make the meat kosher. You know, he would think with the executive chef's name being Bobby Trafe, he would probably know that. Maybe not. Joke for my Jewish friends in the crowd. Maybe not a whole lot of them out there tonight. So anyway, it's in the news a lot these days. Like, you see it just about every week. You know, some dumbass, like, blows half of his hand off with some dynamite, or some jackass flies an airplane into the side of the mountain, all in service of gender reveal parties. I tell you what, these violent-ass gender reveal parties have got to go. I've got a far better, far safer alternative, and it goes a little something like this. You rent an Airbnb out in a rural area. You get your party together for your gender reveal, and you get your people there, and you get them in some sort of enclosed area, like a front yard with a fence, or, you know, maybe a pig pen or something like that. And you just get them there ready, like, all right, you ready for the reveal? Here we go. And you hire an out-of-work crop duster pilot, and there's a lot of those because these days the combine harvesters can spray the insecticide all over the fields. The pilots are sitting there in the pilot bars drinking all day. They're a dime a dozen, you know. So you hire yourself an out-of-work crop duster pilot, and basically you give them this giant load of rattlesnakes, all of them defanged, except for one. And then you get the pilot to fly over, and right when they're crop dusting your people, they drop the load of snakes, and they're like, what's going on? Oh my God, it's snakes! They're falling from the sky! Oh my God, rattlesnakes! And they're all freaking out and running, and you're just watching the shit show. You're watching the fur fly, and all of a sudden somebody gets bit. And it's like, oh, I've got bit! I've been bit! Anyway, the gender of the person who got bit, that's the gender the baby's gonna be. It's not foolproof, but it's more effective than sonograms these days, I'll tell you that much. And the thing is, you know, there is one thing that can go wrong with that. Like, if you get a really skittish pilot and, you know, they're flying towards the drop site and they're a few miles away over the Costco on the way there, and they just start freaking out and they go, you know what? I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. And then they drop the whole load of snakes early over a Costco parking lot, and there's some lady in the parking lot who just went to buy a rotisserie chicken and a couple of pallets of bottled water, and, you know, she's like, snakes are falling. Oh my God, snakes are falling from the sky. I just came here to get a slice of pizza and a soda and buy a couple things, and now it's biblical and shit. It's just like my Sunday school teacher told me. Except I've forgotten how to pray. You know, there's this thing that happened to me. It happened to some of you too out there. It's just, you know, it was called puberty, and it was like the worst thing that ever happened to me. I went from like, I'm a happy little girl who pees standing up. I'm a happy little girl who pees standing up. And now my voice is getting really deep and I'm getting buried. This fucking sucks. I look look like goddamn Sasquatch and I don't even live in the Pacific Northwest. That was bad. And so that's when I started turning my arms into corn cobs. Get all this hair off me. It was really bad. It was really bad. But I've survived. I'm here today. And, you know, it's like, I'm sort of non-binary. I used to be more femme. And, you know, I went to a drag show yesterday. It was just full of femmes, like all sorts of, like, high femmes doing drag. And, you know, it's like I sort of used to do drag when I was younger. But, like, I never really got, like, the urge to get up and prance around in lip sync when I was doing drag, you know. Mostly when I got dressed up, I just wanted to jack off into a pair of panties, bury them back at the bottom of my mom's underwear drawer, and pretend that nothing ever happened. So, any of you watched the Dave Chappelle special that came out recently? Yeah, it wasn't really all that great. You know, there's still some dude who's like, Chappelle, man, he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what kind of GOAT, you know. In sports, GOAT is the person who failed when everything was on the line, you know, maybe that type of GOAT. But, you know, I watched it, I wasn't impressed. He's basically doubling down on gender essentialism, but, you know, I don't want to get too deeply into that because, like, what does come through in his comedy is that, like, he's a comic of the 90s, and back in the 90s it was all, like, the Soviet Union's ending, and like, racism's ending, and sexism's ending, and everything's ending, and the world's gonna be okay, and we can say anything we want about whoever we want from now on, because everything's okay, but it wasn't okay. It never was okay. The 90s were a lie. Don't tell anyone who hangs out at Blair Alley that, though. They don't want to hear it. But anyway, the 90s were a lie, and, you know, the 2000s came along, and queer folks and trans folks found a degree of liberation, but, you know, did the black community end up getting anything better off? No, I don't think so, and neither did he. But, you know, I don't think he wants to repair his reputation with the transgender community or the queer community, and if he did, he has one way to do it, and that would be to transition. That's all he's got left. I mean, wouldn't you watch Danielle Chappelle's Check Out My New Vag special? I would. You know what, she can even get involved in some of that AEW gimmick wrestling. Wouldn't it be great to watch her wrestle J.K. Rowling? I could just hear Jim Ross now. As God is my witness, J.K. Rowling has been broken in half! Dumbledore can't save her now! This is a total slobber knocker! But you know, one thing I gotta say is if Danielle Chappelle was to exist and turn her outie into an innie and her pecs into titties, she would then be a black trans woman, the most marginalized identity in America, and she could say anything she wanted and everything would be punching up. I had a friend who came and stayed with me from Belgium. He comes a couple times a year to town to visit, and he was lying on my couch the other day and he was really sad, and I was like, dude, bro, what's got you down? He's like, oh man, I have got garlic breath from all this American pussy I've been eating. All right, man, I guess that'll get you down. It's like, well, like, what's Belgium pussy like? He's like, well, you see, the thing is, Belgium is a divided country. It's not just like there's one type of Belgian pussy. There's like Flemish pussy and there's Wallonian pussy. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, what are those like? He's like, how the fuck would I know? I mostly blow Turkish truckers. I mean, how do you think I got the money to come to America to visit your dumb ass twice a year? So I found out that the number 3 Pornhub search in South Carolina is Guy Fieri. What's up with those South Carolinians, you know? Like, are they really that into Flavor Town, or is he just kind of like everybody's zaddy there, you know? Is that what they want? They want Guy Fieri, you know? Okay. So I love living in the Wit. Like, I don't just perform here. I live like a block away. This is my neighborhood. This is my home. And I hang out at Blair Alley sometimes too. I went down to Blair Alley and I was talking to this guy about COVID. And he said, you know what, like COVID scared me so bad that I like got together all my pornography and I put it in a box labeled trash, do not open. Just in case like my next of kin find it so that they don't look at it and like see that I was into these dirty things. And me, like, I'm really sex positive. Like my porn is displayed, like, you know, on a bookshelf in the common area of my house, you know. It's like, you know, I've been to the dungeon, I've been naked in front of others, but he got me to thinking, it's like, you know, what would I put in my box labeled do not open, like if I was to die? And, you know, I didn't want people to, like, see some of the things I used to be into, and I thought about it really hard. And the first thing I would put in that box, I had this notebook that was like covered with like Ron Paul for president stickers from back in like 2008 when I naively believed the libertarian thing. But that's not what's embarrassing about it. What's embarrassing is the notebook is filled with love poems I wrote to Ron Paul because I wanted him to be my silver daddy. Yeah, that's what's embarrassing. I also have a shit ton of Beanie Babies from back in the day. I don't want you all knowing about that. Those go in the box too. And needless to say, the David Hasselhoff blow-up doll goes in the box. But the thing that really needs to go in the box most is that cobalt mine that I own in the Congo, where people work for like 5 cents an hour, basically like giving their lives to mine materials for our smartphones. I don't want any of you to know that like I was that kind of exploitative capitalist bastard. That's absolutely going into the box. So anyway, when I die and you see my box that says trash, do not open, remember, that's not the good porn. The good porn's on the bookshelf, trust me. Now, one thing I'm not into about Eugene, though, is the fat shaming. Like, I'm so tired of the fat shaming in Eugene, and this is institutionalized fat shaming. It's really terrible. Like, for example, I was crossing the street the other day, and I pressed the button, and it beeps back at me, wait. Like, fuck you. Fuck you. And so anyway, finally I wait and, you know, ironically, and it turns green and I start to cross and it's like, walk sign is on across 6th Avenue, fatty. Like, fuck off. City of Eugene needs to take care of this fat shaming bullshit. I'm not gonna stand for it. So anyway, if you know any city engineers, like, send them my way. I want to change the recordings. I want it to be like, hey, yo, dude, bro, like, don't cross now. There's like hella cars, man. Like, seriously. You know, some people think that like queerness is this modern thing, but I tell you what, it goes way back deep in American history. Like, for example, like the Revolutionary War was like really, really gay. Now let me tell you how. You know, like Paul Revere, every night, like he had his boyfriend come over and give him his midnight ride, you know? And, you know, and I tried to tell jokes about polyamory. Well, it's ironic, like Paul Revere's boyfriend was named Paul E. Amory. And he'd come over every night and, you know, he'd Roger Paul Revere roundly and Paul would scream out, oh, the British are coming, the British are coming. And it just gets even gayer from there. You know, like modern warfare that we're used to, you know, you got bombs and you got tanks and you got guns and you got airplanes and you got all this destruction. But you know, back then they had like frilly little outfits with like buckles and bows and stockings and like wigs, and they marched in formation. It was like Billy Porter designed and choreographed the whole thing. So, I've got this neighbor who's kind of a jackass, parks in front of my house, lets his dog shit on my lawn. I'm really upset with him. So I decided to cast a spell on him. So I got out my copy of the Necronomicon. You know, I figured I'd cast something nasty and like send him into the earth to his doom, but I kept flipping through pages and flipping through pages and flipping through pages, and I never did get to the end where the spell I was looking for was, and it turns out I didn't have the Necronomicon. I had a copy of the Necronon and on-Macon. I bought it at Costco. It was the Kirkland version, apparently. I was reading the newspaper the other day, and I found out that our universe is, in fact, not like this fat plane. It's like gently curved. It's gently curved throughout all of space-time. And you know what I have to say about that? Screw you, flat universers! Suck it, you're wrong. Go back to your 8chan and hang out with your homies. I don't want to hear your crap anymore. So I'm a karaoke DJ, that's my side gig, you know, I enjoy it, it's interesting. Some of the neighbors hate karaoke, but they've already lost the battle to get the venue shut down, and so they come and like beg me to turn it down, and I'm like, you know, I get to be a total asshole. I'm like, look here, sir, if you are on my stage, I need you to sing. Like, if you can't get on my stage and complain about it being too loud. Like, you can get up here and sing Stayin' Alive, or you can like leave out the back gate, my friend. I'm not gonna put up with this garbage. There's this one guy there who has a crush on me, and he's totally my type. He's like a Shetland pony-sized version of Sam Miller. And he's just like, he's bite-sized and cute, and he's balding and dances like a geek, and he's furry and everything, and I think he's queer, and like I don't quite know what to do about it, because there's like a part of me that's like, okay, cute boy, I know how to bottom, you know, I know how to shine on the boys, you know, I might as well go for it. He's a cutie and he's into me. And there's a part of me that's like, you have extricated yourself from toxic masculinity once and for all. Why would you ever go back? These pipes are clean. This entrance is blocked up with stones and old pieces of gum and random detritus that we found over by the railroad tracks in the Whitaker. Why would you ever undo all of these years of defense that we've put up against incursion by the toxic masculine scheme? But I'm like, yes, but he's a cutie, and I kind of want him.
So I assume you all got your letters from the government lately. Yeah, you're nodding your heads like you have. Yep, mandatory polyamory is now the law of the land. So anyway, they assigned me to a veterinarian in Veneta and a, what else? It was a chiropractor in Coburg. And both of them are named Steve, which is convenient for remembering their names, but like, what the government hasn't told me yet is how the hell I'm supposed to pay for all the gas to get back and forth from Coburg and Veneta. I mean, it's not like my car runs on mediocre blowjobs and reluctant emotional labor, you know. Yeah. So it's great to be here in Eugene. You know, I've lived here close to a year now. It's really a cool place, and I love so many things about it. You know, I love the nature. I love the people. I'm even starting to get used to the really weird looks I get when, like, I tell some white person, "Hey, did you know it's cultural appropriation to have those dreads?" You know, those looks are starting to be priceless. You know, I should make a MasterCard commercial. But another thing I love about being up here is I love Fred Meyer. Like, Fred Meyer is like this really beautiful, unique experience. Like, I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to have a little Fred Meyer in my life. Like, it's so big. Like, I think I've gotten to the end of the store, and then I turn the corner and there's like a whole another 2/3 of a store left to go. Like, I found the ironic cleaning products aisle. That was great. The discontinued products aisle, that was fabulous. Hope y'all stocked up on Crystal Pepsi. I know I did. And then, you know, they had the Tweaker Supply products aisle, and I checked out the new line of Loyal to the Foil activewear. But you know, like, I hope I never have to work at Fred Meyer, because what creeps me out about Fred Meyer is, like, when you're there at the top of the hour, you hear it ring through the store, it's like, boom, it's the top of the hour. Fred Meyer Associates must now spit at their current chaw and start a new dip. Fred Meyer Associates must do the hokey pokey. However, if you're caught turning yourself around, you will be subject to disciplinary action. Associates locked in the freezer for hokey pokey related disciplinary actions will not be let out of the freezer. However, we will be bringing you a survival blanket in order to comply with OSHA regulations. So, you know, I almost ended up having an experience kind of like working there. I thought I was going over to the, I don't want to talk about that aisle. I don't want to talk about that. Keep that personal. But I was going to go check out another part of the store, and I went into a door, and I ended up accidentally getting locked into a storeroom. And it was really scary. I was in there for like the better part of you know, a week, and it was just really nasty. And finally, they let me out, and like I was safe, and I was on the TV news and everything. But you know, I've made some good out of it. Like, I wrote a screenplay about my experiences. It's called 5 Nights at Freddy's. I'm gonna pitch that. I think I'm gonna make a lot of money off that. Maybe we can get Nicolas Cage involved somehow. So I don't watch a whole lot of broadcast television. Do you all watch a lot of broadcast television? I assume you're all streamers and, you know, watch stuff on your phone. Well, I was hanging out with my mom recently, and my mom is a boomer, and she watches broadcast television still. And it's absolutely gone down the tubes. Like, it's sick, twisted, and disgusting. We were watching CBS, and this promo came on for this new show. It was called Placebo Hope. It was about an old woman's relationship with God. Oh. Yeah. I know, they're getting really cynical on those networks. terribly cynical. You know, they used to try to reach out to the boomers. It was like, you know, if you had fantasies about like solving the crimes in Maine that were too mundane for Stephen King to write about, you could watch Murder, She Wrote. You know, or if you had a fantasy about, well, being murdered, you could also watch Murder, She Wrote. It really worked for you. And then there was an ad, it was like for a heartworm medicine for dogs. It was just a bunch of dogs romping around. It was really cute. It was like, oh, okay, finally, something normal and easy and not scary. And then the voiceover at the end was like, ask your veterinarian to be your doctor today. Veterinary medicines are just as potent as human medicines, and for non-Canadians, a hell of a lot cheaper, too. God, what a dystopian nightmare we live in. Then Henry Winkler was advertising his own cryptocurrency. That was nuts. I'm not gonna fall for no Fonzie scheme. Hell no. Hell no.
I tell the world I'm non-binary, but realistically I identify as a manic pixie dream cryptid. Y'all heard of the manic pixie dream girl stereotype? It's like Zoe Deschanel in a movie comes into some guy's life and does all this unwarranted, undeserved emotional labor to fix all of his problems, and while simultaneously keeping amazingly straight bangs, wearing skirts, never ripping her tights, and never mussing her makeup. That's a manic pixie dream girl. Whereas as a manic pixie dream cryptid, I usually come into a guy's life, and when I come into his life, I bring a 30-pack of Busch Light. And when we're about 2/3 of the way through that 30-pack of Busch Light, I say, hey, let's do some butt stuff. So yeah, that's my life as a manic pixie dream cryptid. But, you know, I like that I can use whatever bathroom I want, you know? It's like, I feel pretty confident in that I'm big, people don't fuck with me. So, when I gotta drop a stinky, I usually use the men's bathroom because, let me tell you why. I mean, those of you, y'all out here might not know, but like generally masculine folks like to sniff each other's stinkies. Kind of like dogs do. Whereas when I have to take a piss, I tend to go into the women's bathroom, and let me tell you why. When I use the urinals in the men's bathroom, it's like really stark. All you see is wall. You've got like one flush lever. That's all you get. But when I use the urinals in the women's bathroom, they've got this beautiful like mirror in front of it, so I can check my makeup. They've got hot and cold running water, so that I can wash my hands afterwards. It's just really a more elegant experience. Quite frankly, you boys are missing out. It's like I'm on this really cool dating site. It's called Plunger. You on Plunger? It's a great dating site where people post pictures of their buttholes instead of their faces. I mean, it's really great these days with people being masked anyway. Like, I'm not going to get anything from a masked picture, so I'd rather see how somebody's back door is painted. But, you know, I'm noticing, like, this is Spectrum. We've all got masks on except for me up on stage. And, you know, Spectrum's a pretty cautious place. You know, checking our vax cards at the door. And let me tell you what, if Spectrum was around in the 80s, it wouldn't have gotten AIDS. I'm not a parent. I didn't bring anyone into this world. But my sister has brought some people into this world. And she just had a new baby a couple of weeks ago. And I'm really happy for her. Yeah, happy, healthy baby. And I said, hey, I'm just going to give you one piece of advice. I want you to raise this kid for the world to come as opposed to the world of right now. Raise this kid for when he turns 21 in like 2043 rather than when he's born now in 2022. And she's like, yep, I'm totally on that already. I already bought a Blu-ray of Mad Max Fury Road. It's in his crib. Just as soon as he can hold his own head up, we're going to have him watch it. All right, that sounds great. My sister is like this really great party planner, and she's really kind and visionary. And over COVID, the kids wanted to go to Disneyland, and they couldn't, so she had them stay at Grandma's overnight and turned the whole house into the best representation of Disneyland that she could make, and put mints on the pillows and made it like a hotel experience, and just really curated the house to be great for them. And the kids came home and they watched Disney movies and ate special meals, and slept on their newly made beds and pretended they were at Disneyland. It was a really cool experience. And I was going to go home to visit family and go to Pride last year, but Pride in Sacramento was canceled last year due to COVID, and so it didn't happen. And I was talking to my sister about it, and she said, hey, maybe we could have Pride here, like I got Disney for the kids here. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And then the light bulb over her head went off. And I was like, all right, this is great. And so she starts going, you know what? Like, we can put up streamers and listen to Lil Nas X, and I can get your nephews to like dress up in leather suspenders and fake mustaches, and we can have a dance party. And like they can bake a rainbow cake and learn about the color wheel, and then they can make a pride flag and learn about geometry. It's gonna be great. Like, you should come and have pride at my house. I'm like, okay, I've got some ideas for this too if we're gonna have pride at your house. We should invite somebody from Walmart to come and table, and then we should invite like a leftist who hates rainbow capitalism to come over, and then they both can argue like the whole affair. Yeah. And, rather than make food in your kitchen, you should serve all of the food out of the back of a truck and make us wait 45 minutes to order. It's like real pride. Mm-hmm, yeah. And, what I think else would be great is like, if you had like found a guy to protest, like find somebody to hold up a sign that says God hates fags, to make it like a real pride. And she's like, oh no, I have that handled already. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, I found him on Nextdoor. I placed an ad and he replied, you had me at God. And I'm like, okay, well, traditionally as part of Pride, there's a trans march. And she's like, ooh, I don't know. Wait a minute, your brother-in-law replaced a transmission in the Dodge. Does that count as a trans march? Like, okay, was it back in March? And she said, why, yes, it was. I'm like, okay, that counts as trans march. So anyway, that's how I ended up in front of my sister's house with my nephews dressed up like little miniature versions of Mario and Luigi, eating warm hot dogs out of the back of a Dodge Journey, and arguing with some chud named Daryl holding a God Hates Fag signs and wearing a Pit Sting Trump 2020 t-shirt. I just have to read a few announcements before I start my set proper. Number one, our hosts said earlier that orchiectomies are reversible. Actually, those are vasectomies that are reversible. Orchiectomies are the permanent removal of the testicles. So I hope none of you took that bad advice and did anything with it. We also have an official protest against the show being lodged from the International Association of Stepsisters, whom happen to be little people who dress up as clowns and fuck balloons. They're not happy. Also in the category of bad medical advice, actually seeing breasts unexpectedly does cure lazy eye. The previous comic should probably see his doctor again. Also, as you know, in Corvallis, the parking police are pretty nasty, so the Nissan with license plate 683XKG, your lights are on. Toyota 781 LMD, your lights have been stolen. The Ford SL58230, the body in your trunk is leaking vital fluids. You might want to take care of that. Oh yeah, another one for Nissan 683XKG, your car has been towed. And one final one, also for Nissan 683XKG, your car has been crushed. Well, I love Oregon. Oregon is such a cool place. I'm really grateful to be here, and I drive all around, the cities and towns in Oregon. And I found that a lot of the names of towns here kind of sound like they should be the names of prescription drugs. For example, can you imagine a commercial that's like, is your dog suffering from having an odd number of nipples? Ask your veterinarian about Tualatin today. Yeah. Men, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction? Women, are you suffering from that not so fresh feeling? Well, now there's a once-a-day pill that takes care of below-the-belt issues in both men and women. Everybody, ask your doctor about Corvallis. Men, is your male pattern baldness not progressing quickly enough to give you that coveted Walter White look? Does your wife masturbate while watching Bill Burr's Netflix special, yet make you sleep on the couch due to your horseshoe hairline? Well, now it's time for Shed, the only drug guaranteed to speed up the process of male pattern baldness. You from Pfizer.
But you know, the towns here that don't sound like the names of prescription drugs oftentimes sound like diseases that those prescription drugs are prescribed to cure. Do you have a case of the Dales? Well, you really need Vanita, the once-a-day drug that's guaranteed to cure not only the Dales, but also acute cases of Monmouth, Tangent, and Philomath. Yeah. But the town names aren't all that's weird about Oregon. Some of the people are weird too, and I make friends easily. And I had this one friend that just started inviting me to the craziest events. She was like, "Hey Temple, you need to come baby tasting with me this weekend." I'm like, "Ew, that sounds horrible, that sounds sick." And she's like, "Get your mind out of the gutter, it's wholesome." Everybody brings their newborn babies down to the fairgrounds and puts them on a large picnic bench, and then the judges go by, lick the babies' foreheads, rate the licks based on like saltiness, consistency, and skin moisture, and then fill out a judge's card. And by the time the whole thing's over, the baby with the best tasting forehead wins a $500 free play credit to the casino in Florence. Like, that's absolutely insane. She's like, "No, you'll love it, it's great. There's a hot dog eating contest for former child stars. Should have seen Danny Bonaducci last year. He got to hot dog number 43 before he lost the whole deal over the front 3 rows like it was a Gallagher gig circa 1983. And then you gotta see the electric glory holes." I'm like, no, I do not want to see the electric glory holes. And she's like, "Oh, you and your dirty mind, the electric glory holes, Junction City's second most popular Grateful Dead cover band. They do the best version of Sugar Magnolia." Yeah, needless to say, I didn't go to that. I'm not going to go to the Oregon Country Fair either. I don't have a joke about that. I'm just literally scared to go to the Oregon Country Fair. I fear it greatly, so I'll be staying away. Now, there's some other things that are weird about Eugene, too. For example, the hippie protection rackets. Yeah, where I come from, it's like they come to your home or place of business and you have to pay them or they're gonna like burn it down or break your leg. But in Eugene, it's like the protection rackets are supposedly so much more benevolent. I mean, they even advertise on TV. I saw the ad the other day. "Hey man, this is Rainbow Dave, and I just want to remind you that if you don't pay the hippie protection rackets, we will send somewhere between 1 and 3 badly trained buskers who know one, and exactly one, Neil Young song, to sit in front of your house and play that song until you pay up accordingly." And I'm like, what the hell kind of threat is this? You're going to send buskers in front of my house to do bad Neil Young songs? That's just like a typical day in downtown Eugene, you know? It's one of those things in the block. But anyway, I didn't pay up, and I drove home, and you know, the other day I pulled up by my house and I saw these guys, and they're like, hey, there they are. And so they started singing, "Old man, take a look at my life, I'm a lot like you were." And I could hear it through my windows, and I couldn't concentrate on my show, and so, all right, I totally realized like what their shtick is, and so I've been paying off the hippie protection rackets. It seems to be the smart thing to do. So, I'm also bisexual, and let me tell you what, it's not always easy for bisexuals to find dates. You know, we can't always just get on the same dating sites everybody else does, or go to the same bars everybody else does. But, you know, where I come from around the Eugene area, Eugene, Springfield, everybody knows that if you're bisexual and you want to get laid, you need to go to the Springfield Antique Mall. Like, that's where all the bi folks go. The other day, I was given some side-eye to these Bettys trying to signal that I had impeccable taste in mid-century reproduction gas station advertisement signs, and in walks this guy, and he had like a 6-year growth of beard, and you could tell he goes to the gym every day, and just the cutest big bear of a man I'd ever seen, and like, god damn, I wanted to wear him as my wristwatch. And he had a hanky in his back pocket, and I didn't know what it meant, but I knew that the hanky codes meant something, and so I looked up online to see what that hanky meant that was in his left pocket. And it meant either one of two things. Either one, he identified as a daddy, or 2, he owned a McDonald's franchise. Personally, I was hoping for both, you know? So, you know, I started giving him the side eye and the winks and hoping he'd come up to me and be all like, "Welcome to McDaddy's, may I help you?" But no, he wasn't into me, so all I got was, "Thank you, drive through." Yeah. That's how it goes sometimes. But you know, if I can't get laid in person at the Antique Mall, there is a dating site I can use. It's pretty cool. It's called Plunger. Are any of you on Plunger? No. It's really great. It's a dating site where people post pictures of their buttholes instead of their faces. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but in these days with masks, you know, like, why do you want to see everybody's masked face on a dating site? I'd rather see their starfish. It gives me a lot more information. Mm-hmm. Especially if I'm going to be bringing over a 30-pack of Busch Lights. So I'm a non-binary. I'm sort of, not the most normal person in the world, but yet I found my way to work myself into politics. It was really beautiful. I lived in a rural county in California for a while, and I worked on the campaign that won. I worked on a winning campaign. It was really beautiful. I helped get Joe Schmig and McGee elected as irrigation commissioner of El Dorado County, California. And let me tell you, Joe Schmig and McGee were the first ever ventriloquist and dummy team ever to be elected to public office in the state of California. I'm really proud of this. The unfortunate thing, though, is Joe Schmig was sort of a crook and then eventually got kicked out of office in a recall. However, McGee, the dummy, was allowed to stay because he was completely innocent in this particular scandal. So they had to find another ventriloquist to finish his term, so they found Marcel Lachman and his dummy Paulo. But the dummy couldn't be in there, and the main reason that, Marcel and Paulo had such trouble is because basically Paulo was not only a ventriloquist dummy, but he was also a mime. And it's really kind of awkward to try to be like a ventriloquist with a dummy who's a mime, but it made sense because our friend Marcel had gotten punched in the face a number of times and had his jaw wired shut after talking too much smack at the local bar, which was called the Liar's Bench of all places. So anyway, that was my short political career. Eventually Marcel took over along with McGee, but then Marcel eventually was also recalled himself because he turned his city council office into a Spirit Halloween store and decided instead to do his city council business out of the local bar downtown Placerville, which is called the Liar's Bench. So, as I already stated, yes. So I had a friend ask me to go to church with her, and I was like, I don't know, what denomination are you? And she's like, oh, we're proud pescatarians. And I said, I don't know if I want to go. That sounds a little fishy to me. But I decided I'm going to go, so I got to ask any of you, do you by chance have any Christianity repellent that I can borrow from you? I really don't want to get bit. Especially when I'm taking the larger bills out of the collection plate as it passes me by. I mean, a comedian's got to eat somehow, right? I have been selling some stickers as merch, as an additional part of the show, and I really think comedy merch is really neat. Comedy merch exists for comedians to promote themselves and their product, but I really feel that comedy merch has a purpose above and beyond. I use comedy merch to express myself sometimes. Sometimes I feel like a really unique being. I've survived some messed up shit to get here where I am as a non-binary person in their mid-40s in a country that sometimes doesn't want me to exist. I feel like I am a special being. I feel like I'm a great survivor. I feel like I'm a snowball in hell. That's how I feel. See? Snowball in hell. That's comedy merch. Jeremiah Coughlin. He will be at Max, I believe, on Thursday if you want to check him out. But I'm not always feeling good about myself. Sometimes, I have a really bad dysphoria day, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I don't see a cute non-binary femme. I just see, an ugly dude, and I see all the worst traits I have, and I really don't feel all that good about myself. And so those are the days that I put on this comedy merch, The Wrong Kind of Big Guy. So this is what I wear on my dysphoria days. I had a little car trouble. Long story short, I almost ran out of gas and I had to go get a jerry can and fill it up with gas and gas up my tank just so I could drive to the gas station and not have to push my car. And those no-spill lids are no joke. It's really hard to get any gasoline out of those cans without spilling it all over your hands. So I've washed my hands 5 times already this evening and my hands still smell like gasoline.
And, so I basically, gasoline's really hard to get off your hands. Blood is a lot easier to get off of your hands. All you have to do is make a few Instagram posts and lie to yourself, and as long as your therapist doesn't call you out on your bullshit, eventually you'll stop feeling guilty. That's how that goes. But anyway, being non-binary is cool. I have trouble finding clothes that fit me. I'm rather large, and sometimes it's not easy. And but I finally found something that fit me, and I felt good about it. And my friend's like, "Why don't you just wear a utilikilt?" I mean, that's non-binary, it's a utilikilt. And I'm like, God damn it. The reason I don't wear a utilikilt is I don't want anybody to think I'm the type of person that likes to do BDSM on camping trips. No, I don't want you thinking that I've been to Burning Man. No, fuck this utilikilt shit. So I've got a friend in Salem I went to visit the other day, and she's really amazing. She's a plumber, and the thing that she does is she collects hair out of the drains that she unclogs and saves it and uses it to make chest wigs for trans guys. And some of you are like, ew, that's gross, but I tell you what, the human hair wig industry is totally monopolized for the cancer patients. Trans guys just can't get the good shit for chest wigs. Seriously, this lady is a hero.
So anyway, last time I went to the Springfield Antique Mall, on my way home, I passed by Bobby's VIP Lounge, which is a strip club, and they had a sign out front that said, "Welcome to the shit show." And I was thinking, finally, a transgressive adult performance, and for it to be happening here, of all places in Springfield, that's really a surprise. I figured this would be like a San Francisco thing. So, I went down to Jerry's and I bought myself some plastic sheeting, because I figured if it's a shit show, you'd want to prepare like you're going to see Gallagher perform, right? You'd want to have some protection for your clothing. But once I walked into the place, I found out that it was just a commentary on management's inefficient scheduling practices. There actually wasn't going to be a shit show. Glad I kept my receipt from Jerry's. Got my money back. Let me tell you this, and I don't want to go too deep here, but this is important to me. I really think that you guys out there have been screwed over by the way you were socialized. It's like guys are so ingrained, especially these last 30 years, about no homo, no homo, no homo. Yeah, bro hug, no homo. That shit has done you guys such a great disservice, because now you're expected not to even want the oxytocin-inducing touch of your peers. You're just conditioned into being like, yeah, no, bro, I don't think so. And you're really missing out on an old masculine tradition called the circle jerk. You dudes are missing out. You modern no homo bros have not gotten together with a group of your dudes on a Saturday night, drinking some whiskey, just reaching over one to the left, and everybody comes, everybody's happy, They still do it throughout much of the third world, but no, it's this Western American no homo thing that keeps you guys from getting the circle jerk pleasure you deserve. So if you're one of those dudes who's confident in yourself, and you're confident in your life, please normalize touching each other's dicks. It's gonna make all of your lives better. You're gonna be happier for it. Just go for it. And one of the things that really bothers me, though, about that is it's led to a rise in what we call incel culture, involuntarily celibate. And the crux of incel culture is this idea that guys are owed pussy. It's they're owed as their birthright, some sort of hospital clean person to fuck. And I really think that is the laziest ideology I have ever heard. Involuntarily celibate, give me a fucking break. If you want to get laid that bad, you can either A, go out and get a fucking job and pay an actual sex worker, and that will get you laid. Or, better yet, well, maybe not even better yet, but also will work, you can make yourself a better person by working to become a better person and doing therapy and letting go of angst and working with your trauma to become a better person, to become meaningful relationship material to the point where people of the sexual orientation of your choice want to fuck you just because you're that awesome. So either way, do the work. Get a job, pay a sex worker, be a better person. Don't think that you're entitled to somebody to fuck. That's so lazy. Jesus Christ, all you gotta do is go to the gym
And you're gonna be getting handy. I mean, come on, what are you complaining? Oh, but it's a same-sex handy. Well, what the fuck? Do you think you're Burt Reynolds or something? Just take what you can get. Get that handy. Come on, boys. Step up your game. So one of the questions I've seen people asking lately is, how come there's so many queer youth? How come there's so many queer youth? They're like everywhere. Used to be like we'd meet a gay person here or there, we'd meet a queer person here or there, and now all of a sudden it's not just my hairdresser and like the guy at the bar that has the drag queen shows, but it's also my kid, my grandkid, my kids' friends, my grandkids' friends. How come all these youth are queer? And I am here as a public service to tell you all why and how these kids are queer, so that you all know, so that you're not confused anymore. And I'm going to tell you what it is right now. You ready to hear this? You ready to hear this? It's because of chemtrails. The United States government shoots aerosolized jets of liquid rainbows from 30,000 feet that fall upon the people. And once we breathe in those aerosolized particles, all of a sudden we start questioning our gender identity and our sexual orientation. We start changing our names to 3-letter names that contain X's. Lex, Dex, Dax, even Ty with an X. One of the main problems we're dealing with is like people on the streets, all that they have access to is meth and fentanyl and meth and fentanyl. And if any of you have ever used meth or fentanyl, you know that the come down off of that is horrible. They're both horribly addictive substances, but yet the people that are in the most need to get high, to get out of their fucked up situation, that's the drugs they have. Oh, you're poor, that's all you deserve. If we could just do one fucking humane thing in this country, could we save the shitty drugs like meth and fentanyl for the rich, and can we give the good drugs to the poor? Like, if we're gonna think it's okay as a society to just leave people to die on the streets, could we at least give them some real pharmaceutical grade coke? Like, hello Merck, pharmaceutical coke, American streets. You did it before during the crack epidemic and you can do it again. Come on, be a pal. Look out for our friends on the streets. You know, rich people like go to parties and do ketamine and sit in chairs for hours and hours, but if you gave that ketamine to the people on the streets, you wouldn't be bitching about them having meth psychosis because they'd be living on K-Hole Row.
So this angel goes up to God and says, God, I've got this great idea for a planet. I really would love it if you would create this planet for me. And God's like, all right, that's creative. I'm all ears. Tell me about your planet. It's like, all right, so we have this planet, and for billions of years, it's nothing but fire and brimstone and just really burning conditions. And finally, these burning conditions settle down enough for there to be a crust on this planet, and then the crust is going to start to get some amino acids going on, and all of a sudden this life starts generating. But it's a really hard life. It's not an idyllic life. It's a type of life where all the beings alive have to like eat each other to survive in like horrible ways and just devour their corpses. Go nom nom nom, corpse, 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 nom nom nom. And so then the life devours the corpses, and eventually the life gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and they devour bigger and bigger and bigger corpses, and finally they just like get to the system where they're finally, they've delivered some beings that walk on 2 legs. But once these beings that walk on 2 legs get started, that's when the shenanigans really begin. Because these 2-leggeds, they're not like little peaceful garden dwellers. No. You put them in a garden, and then you tell them like not to eat any of the fruit in it. And of course, these motherfuckers are going to go right off, and they're going to eat the fruit. Like, that's the first thing they're going to do. And then, for like the rest of their existence, you get to punish them for that, for funsies. And they wander around and they have to like eat things in order to survive and kill and eat and kill and eat and kill and eat. And you know what? Even within that, they find something of a balance. They start finding this golden age where they pray to you for like the bounty they have to kill, and they try to like plant things and take care of littler things in order to, maybe give something back. And you let that go for a while. But don't let that go too long, because that's not what this planet's all about.
Because like they're going to be facing threats. There's going to be thunder and lightning and volcanoes and killer pterodactyls with earbuds on that swoop down and like pick them up and go gnaw on them up in the trees. And it's just really kind of a dark thing. And how do these people respond to that dark thing? They start going, hey, you know what? Like we maybe need to build some fences, and like rather than hunt and gather and garden, we can just like plant a whole bunch of these things and keep a bunch of animals in here. And then rather than having to go out and find them and kill them, we can just kill them when they're hungry because they're right here. And so that starts, but then there's all these unintended side effects, and like living with the animals gives them all sorts of weird diseases, and they fall asleep with their candles and like set the barns on fire, and they die in weird fires. But even in spite of that, it keeps growing and growing, and there's more and more places with the fences and the cows, and farming develops, and all of a sudden some of the members of the species, oh, did I tell you, God, like you got to have like 95% of the species have like empathy and compassion, and the other 5 just have to be total complete bastards. And so once the bastards figured out that they can exploit this whole like walled-in farming animal husbandry thing, they start doing it, and they start accruing all this power and pitting the people against each other. And they get to accrue this mass wealth and build castles and build this whole exploitative system. But here's the rub. They're never happy with it. They're completely miserable the entire time they're doing it. They don't get any joy out of exploiting others. They just keep doing it. And so this system builds up, and then, to make even more wealth, they create like these vast factories and industry, and they breed millions and millions of more people just to exploit them in order to build widgets, in order to like get more wealth accrued on the hands of the exploiters. But nobody's happy the whole entire time because they're still killing and eating and nom 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 nom, animal death survival. And they keep going with all this. But then these feudal industrial things grow up into what's called nation states, and they build entire giant armies of people just to kill each other for little pieces of turf and for the entertainment and gratification of the ruling classes of these societies. And they do this for hundreds and hundreds of years. Cycles of subjugation, exploitation, militaristic conquering, decline, resubjugation, back and forth, over and over again, back and forth. And it just keeps going on. And finally, they get into one so bad that they create a weapon so big that they can absolutely blow up the planet. And if they were smart, they would. If they're smart, they would. They'd be like, fuck you, God, we're blowing up this whole planet right here now that we have nukes. Eat shit and die. But no, they're afraid to die because they believe the little bits of propaganda they created to scare their children. And so they don't blow up the world, and they keep going well past the expiration date of their civilization. And so they keep going with this, and the cycles of exploitation come. And then this golden age, these amazing beings come to this planet. They're like, hey, there's another way. We can do things peacefully. We can do things with love. Hey, look, like everybody's been marginalized and exploited. And if we just do a little modicum of work, we can get out of this cycle and build, if not a utopia, at least something reasonably tolerable and humane here on this planet. And, the 95% that are into that put the work in, and they really do the best that they can. And they try to build this, but the 5% of sociopathic exploiters are just strong enough and devious enough and evil enough that they guise themselves in the sheep's clothing. They make themselves look like they're part of the solution rather than part of the problem, and they absolutely flip the whole thing over, and they just continue into further industrial capitalism like they were going before, but it's a kinder, gentler industrial capitalism. You don't torture kids in the middle of the street. You put them in cages in cities far away. You don't fight the wars in front of you. You fight the wars in proxy states with people that don't speak the same language as you, which makes it easier to dehumanize them and allow them to do your dirty work for you. And this cycle keeps going and keeps going. And finally, this one group of exploiters just absolutely goes apeshit. They can't stand it anymore, and they unleash their nuclear weapons, and other people unleash their nuclear weapons, and then they start blowing things up. And everybody thought that when they unleashed these terrible weapons of war, they would blow up the planet, and that would be the end of it. But no, that's not the end of it, because we're not going to let them off that easily. No. We're going to have worse exploitation. We're going to find new technological ways to take the people who are remaining and exploit them more efficiently. The humans invent drugs to inject into the people so that they don't need to wash their brains with cerebrospinal fluid at night in this process called sleep in order to stay sane and functional. No. And once they don't need the cerebrospinal fluid wash every night, they can be up and work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can put like chips in them and like electrodes in them and absolutely torture them, and just to get them to live these eternal existences of suffering, just to give you this slight little ego boost and maybe another bedroom on the yacht that you have built for you. And anyway, you keep this cycle going on and on until the absolute complete degradation of the planetary biome's capacity to support human life eventually dwindles down what's left of these exploitative systems into nothing. All of the dreams of the 95% of empathetic, compassionate people are completely dashed, and they don't get any victory out of it. It's all just a big tease. And God says, damn, you put a lot of thought into this, haven't you? The angel says, yes, I have. Yes, I have. And God says, all right, I'm seriously going to consider building this planet. Do you know what you'd name it? The angel says, yes, I do. I would name it Planet Aristocrat. Yeah! That's my time.